Hi friends, this is a quick overview of prologue to the end of Ode 1. So what we need to understand is the prologue of the play, this opening of the play tells us that there is a terrible plague that has struck the city of Thebes, which is our setting. Plants, animals, and people are dying. The priests need help from Oedipus, their king, and we kind of want to be looking at that. So again, time and scene, the royal house of Thebes, the city. We see Oedipus years before, many years have passed. Years before Oedipus solved this riddle of the Sphinx, which, in case you didn't know, is this mythological creature that in ancient Greek mythology is has the lion, or the body of a lion and the head of a woman. I think it has wings and the beak of an eagle or something. But anyway, the Sphinx was tormenting Thebes, and then Oedipus came in, solved the riddle, and ended up becoming king as a result, especially because the king before the Sphinx and before Oedipus was dead. And so Oedipus ascends to the throne and becomes the king. However, years have passed, and now there has been a plague in Thebes, and Oedipus, having previously been the intelligent hero to save them once before, is obviously a good one to save them again. Now, what we should be wondering is, if there is a plague, is this a punishment from the gods? So it begins with Oedipus just kind of obviously saying a lot of how much he loves Thebes and he's there to save them, and they want him to save them again, and he is capable of this because he is a hero that previously, defeated the Sphinx. It just kind of continues back and forth, and we see here where Oedipus is actually loves his people. He's a pretty empathetic guy. He says you're suffering, but I'm suffering more because I love you all so much, and that he's on it. He's on trying to figure out why there is this plague. He has sent Creon to the Oracle Delphi, to speak with Apollo, which is a god, one of the Greek gods, to figure out why this is happening and how we can save the city. So these are all kind of, Oracle Delphi is definitely well known in ancient Greek theater. Apollo is obviously one of the gods. So for audiences at the time, they would understand what all this means pretty immediately. So anyway, so Oedipus is I'm on it. Let's figure this out. It's still Ode 1 or prologue. So anyway, Creon comes back after having spoken with the oracle, and he tells us that the Apollo is basically punishing Thebes because there is corruption in the land that needs to be driven out, and no more, we can't harbor it any further. And so Oedipus is confused because he's okay, well, what's the corruption? And then Creon lets us know that it's a murderer. That is the corruption, and that this man needs to either be banished, exiled, or killed, this murderer. And so, we were all wondering, Oedipus asks, okay, well, who's the murderer, or who's the murder victim? What murder do we need to avenge? And then Creon says, our leader, my lord, was once a man named Laius, before you came and put us straight on course. So it's the former king who was murdered, and they now have to find out who the murderer is and banish or kill him. And Oedipus is okay, that's fine. I've never met Laius, so you need to tell me a little bit more, but I will definitely avenge him if this is what I need to do in order to save my people. And so he's okay, so where, do we know where this murderer is? And we find out the murderer is currently in Thebes. And Oedipus is okay, but where? It wouldn't be easy if Apollo made it super obvious, right? So Oedipus is okay, but where? Can you tell me more about Laius's death? Again, I wasn't here when this happened, so you need to tell me what I need to know. I'm not from Thebes. I, wound up here and eventually became the king, but I am, a foreigner in that sense. And then we find out that Laius didn't die in Thebes. He was out looking for the oracle. This is, again, before the play begins. And, again, Oedipus keeps questioning, and we find out there was a witness. There's only one witness left. There was a whole group, but only one guy escaped. And this witness claims it was a group of thieves that killed the king. And Oedipus is like, okay, well, if there was a group of thieves that killed the king, like, I am not the king. I need to obviously be careful because I could potentially be the next victim. And so he kind of starts yelling at them a little bit and is like, okay, well, why didn't you solve this? And they were like, we were a little bit busy with, you know, the Sphinx that was torturing us. We just never had time to do it. So Oedipus is like, no, have no fear. I'm king. I'm amazing. I'm Oedipus. Pride, pride, pride. Right? I can do this. But then he does say, whoever killed the king may decide to kill me too. With the same violent hand, by avenging Laius, I defend myself. So then you're kind of wondering as the audience, like, okay, like, yes, he's a good king and he loves his people and he wants to save them, but he's also, like, trying to help himself a little bit here too. With any, like, ancient Greek hero and protagonist, like, we always have to kind of understand, like, they have layers. They're like an onion, if we're going to borrow the Shrek metaphor. They have layers, like, they're a little complex. They're, you know, good and, I don't want to say bad. They have good qualities and then they have less desirable qualities. So that is prologue. Now, parados is, these paradoses and odes are often led by the chorus. And if you remember from your Intro to Greek theater slide deck or whatever, or sorry, stations, you know that the chorus is made up of, like, the citizens of Thebes. Typically, it's like a group of men / like leaders of Thebes. And they're meant to speak for they're like the voice of the people. And so they often will comment on, like, the themes of the play, what's happening with the play. Sometimes they give us background information. Sometimes they, you know, they talk about, like, their perspective. And so they're going to be a really important function in Oedipus Rex and especially in Antigone as well. So in Parados, they're kind of like, oh, we're all dying. There's so much death and suffering. Let me pray to all the gods. They're like throwing spaghetti on the wall and trying to have one of the gods hear their prayers. And, you know, again, Oedipus can save us. That's like my quick summary. Now, episode 1 is where we get, like, a lot more plot. And so episode 1, Oedipus is speaking to, again, like, the people. And he's like, look, I wasn't here when Laius died. However, like, I will avenge him. Again, I didn't know this man, but I will avenge him. If you know anything, you need to tell me. I will banish him. I'm not going to kill the murderer. I will just banish the murderer. Because, again, the curse was either, like, you have to drive the corruption out of the land and either, like, murder or exile or, like, prosecute, kill. Pay back blood with blood, the murderer. And so he's like, look, I'm not going to murder the guy. I'm just going to banish them. And so he kind of continues and he says, like, again, the murderer is the plague, the heart of our corruption. And that's a great metaphor. And that concept of corruption is really, really important. So he's like, he is the heart of our corruption. We need to get him gone. He's like, I want the murderer to suffer. Like, I want him to live in agony the rest of his life, step by painful step. But, like, I'm not going to kill him. I'm going to we'll banish him. And then again, he chastises everybody again for, like, not avenging Laius and letting this go on for so long. I am here. I am the king now. I hold the throne. And he's like, I'm here to save him. And then we find out this is, like, a really awkward little section and the way it's written. And again, it's translated, but there's still, like, with ancient Greek theater, there's a lot of, like, innuendos. But he says, I am the king now. I hold the throne that he held. I possess his bed and a wife who shares our seed. Why our seed may be the same, children born of the same mother might have created blood bonds between us if his hope of offspring had not met disaster. So, you know, it's a little awkward, but basically he's like, my current wife, I went ahead and just made it easy and I married Laius's, like, wife, the widowed wife. So Jocasta, Oedipus's wife, was also married to Laius, the former king. I'm assuming she must be incredibly attractive for him to just marry the current queen. But anyway, he went ahead and married Laius's wife, and they have children. That's what it means by shares our seed. And this whole idea of, like, Laius not having children or the hope of his offspring had not met disaster. I'm assuming they either did not have children or if they did, those children are now dead. So either way, the children that are here are actually Oedipus and Jocasta's. So anyway, that's that. So he does say, like, I'm here, I'll figure this out. And then the leader of the chorus says, okay, well, why don't you go ahead and call Tiresias? He is this prophet, meaning he is all-seeing, and, he'll probably he has a direct line to Apollo. He could probably tell us, like, who the murderer is. And then it's reiterated that the belief is that Laius was killed by, like, a band of thieves or, like, certain travelers. So that's what the witness said. So we continue with the rest of episode 1, and Tiresias arrives. Now, Tiresias is an incredibly important character, both in this play and in Antigone, which we are reading after this. He has a reoccurring role, if you will. He is a blind prophet, which is, of course, ironic and intentional. So he cannot see what's happening in front of him. However, he is all-seeing and all-knowing in that respect. He can see the future, and he can see the past, and he can see it all together. And so this is, like, well-known. And so there's a lot of respect for him. So the leader is like, oh, here he is. He is the man of God. The truth lives inside him. So again, like, this belief that Tiresias knows the answer. And Oedipus definitely, like, compliments Tiresias initially. He calls him, like, a savior, a shield, a man of mystery, a master of mysteries, and all of that. So, like, definitely, like, like, puffs him up a little bit at the beginning because he's about to ask him, like, a big ask. And so he's like, okay, so tell us who the murderer is. And Tiresias is very much like, I could tell you, I know who it is, but I don't want to tell you. It causes pain. It causes me pain to know who the murderer is. And Oedipus, I mean, understandably is like, really? You're not going to tell us? Like, we're dying here. Like, you need to tell us. And Tiresias is like, just send me home. I'm not going to tell you. You don't want to know. And Oedipus is, like, getting really mad. And Tiresias keeps saying, like, I don't want to cause you pain. Like, this is useless. I'm going to head out. And Oedipus is like, no, like, you are the scum of the earth. You need to tell me. Which I'm like, whoa, that's a little intense. And so Tiresias starts to get mad. So now they're starting to fight. And Tiresias is like, I get it. I know why you're mad at me, but, like, it's like kind of funny that you're getting mad at me and calling me the scum of the earth when you are the one that, like, and I don't want to give it away because it's about to in a second, but he's like, when, considering who you live with. And Oedipus doesn't really understand what that means. And he's like, regardless, like, we're dying here. Thebes is dying. Like, you owe the city. Like, also you owe me. I am your king. So you're bound to tell me that. So Oedipus pulls rank here a little bit. And it's kind of this interesting power play. And again, if we're applying a feminist lens, you could definitely look into this. But it's interesting because, Tiresias has, like, this direct line to the gods, right? He is, like, the man of God, or the gods, according to Oedipus. So is he above the king? Well, I don't know. Apparently not in Oedipus's eyes. Like, Tiresias is supposed to serve him, but technically Tiresias serves the gods. And so there's this really interesting tension that's created in this moment. And so Oedipus, like, says, like, kind of threatens him, like, I have fury in me. Like, you want to tell me. You should tell me. Otherwise, like, I'm going to get really mad at you, and that's not good for you. And he's like, unless the reason you're not telling me is because you were the one that plotted to murder Laius in the first place. So this kind of accuses Tiresias of withholding information because maybe Tiresias was involved. So we see some paranoia from Oedipus. And then that is the thing that just, like, throws Tiresias over the edge. And he says to Oedipus, you are the curse, the corruption of the land. Now, if we remember what the original prophecy was from Apollo and even what Oedipus just said, he said, whoever is the murderer is the corruption of the land, and we need to, like, remove the corruption. So what we should be wondering as an audience is, did Tiresias just accuse Oedipus of being the murderer? Scandal. And so Oedipus is like, what? I never even met the guy. How could I have been the murderer? He's like, you're making this up. You shouldn't have said this. And Tiresias is like, you literally just forced me to tell you. You just twisted it out of me. And then Oedipus keeps getting mad at him. Again, understandably, he's just been accused of murder. And Tiresias like doubles down and says, you are the murderer, you hunt. And Oedipus is like, no, like you're going to pay. This is not right. And then Tiresias adds in another little interesting tidbit when he says, you and your loved ones live together in infamy, which is disgrace. You cannot see how far you've gone in guilt. Now, this is obviously interesting because this is a blind man saying to Oedipus, who is a seeing man, you cannot see. And so we see this kind of like back and forth between the idea of vision, because Tiresias can see, but Oedipus is blind to the truth. And so Oedipus like says, you've lost your power. Like you are not a prophet. Like you're a liar. All of that. And he accuses Tiresias of working with Creon to bring him down, which is sad because Creon and Oedipus, prior to this, their brother-in-laws were like best friends, but now he's like, you and Creon are working together and you are trying to bring me down. So again, we see a lot of paranoia, which is important. And then we also see like some pride and arrogance and boastfulness here, because he says to like Tiresias, like, if you're such a good prophet, why didn't you solve the riddle of the Sphinx? Like, I was the one that solved the riddle. I stopped the Sphinx. And Tiresias is like, you may be the king, but like I am your equal in the sense that like I serve Apollo and I can reply to your accusations. Like basically says, no, I'm not working with Creon, and you don't even know anything. Like you think you can see, but you are blind. Do you know who your parents are, Oedipus? Do you know where you come from? One day you'll find out the truth and you'll learn that your marriage is a lusty voyage home to a fatal harbor, which is incredibly ominous and like weird. And he says, and a crowd of other horrors you've never dreamed of will level you with yourself and all your children, which is again pretty ominous. And we want to keep that in mind. And so he does kind of continue, and he says, because Oedipus is like, I don't believe you. And Tiresias is like, hey, the ones who bore you, your parents, found me sane enough. And this is a big little clue about something that we're going to learn. And it's enough that Oedipus is like, okay, well, fine. Who is my father? And Tiresias says, you'll find out. This day will bring your birth and your destruction. And Oedipus is like, oh, you just say riddles. You're a liar. And then I love Tiresias' burr. And he's like, but aren't you the one that solves all the riddles? Oh. And so basically their fight is like kind of towards the end. And Tiresias and his final like little, before he walks out, he says that the man you've sought for so long, the murderer of Laius, he's here. He will soon be revealed. Blind who now has eyes, beggar who is now rich, he will grope his way toward a foreign soil. So this guy is going to be gone. He will be banished, right? And this part's really important. He also says, revealed at last. So this is right when Oedipus enters the palace. Revealed at last, brother and father, both to his children, to his mother, son and husband, both. He sowed the loins his father sowed. He spilled his father's blood. What does this mean? According to Tiresias, Oedipus married his own mother, killed his own father, and fathered his own children / siblings. Ew. So this is if we believe Tiresias. Now, Ode 1 is not super long. Again, it's the chorus. And basically they are like going back and forth. They're like, oh, who do we believe? Tiresias is a prophet after all. Like, he has a direct line to the gods. We should believe him. However, like, Oedipus has been a really good king, and we love Oedipus. And for now, until there's actual proof in what Tiresias is claiming, we are going to go ahead and back Oedipus. And so that's kind of where the people of Thebes stand now. So a lot to digest. I know this was kind of a long recap, but this is for those of you who want to do well on your test and want to make sure that you understand this play before you continue going too much further. All right, thanks everyone. Hope you have a great day.